Good evening, good evening, good evening. And I'm so happy to welcome all of you who are coming in. Thank you for joining us tonight for what I believe is going to be a very insightful and healing and inspiring program tonight. All right. I see so many of you are joining us, and that's wonderful. The numbers are going up, and I feel real good about that. Here's what I'd like for you to do as you're coming in. Would you please take a moment and share right now? Even if you have to text somebody on your phone, text, share, get as many people in as we can. Thank you so much for those who are already sharing. I certainly appreciate that. Tonight is going to be a very healing night. I prayed about doing this, and I was blessed to have some tremendous guests that are going to join me that I'll introduce you in just a moment. But I wanted to make sure that I give you a minute to get in here and get the word out to everybody. So go ahead and share, 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 share. I'm going to get started just a minute. I have some exciting news as well that I want before I bring our guest on. And well, let me go ahead. I feel inclined to say hello to some people I haven't seen in a while. I see my one of my spiritual daughters here, Keela, all the way. She's now a resident of the Carolinas. Good to see you tonight. Bless you so much. God bless you, Beatrice, Mother Thorne. God bless you tonight. Good to see you. So happy to have you. So many of you are coming on. And thank you, Beatrice, my number one supporter and share. You're going to share. And I thank you for that. Well, again, I want to welcome everybody here tonight to the program. We're tackling a subject that is often overlooked during the festive season. You know, we're out shopping, we're singing Christmas songs. We just got finished with Thanksgiving. A lot of times, it's easy for us to forget that there are people who cannot be as joyful as we are. People that are struggling. This time of year is synonymous with joy, love, and celebration. It's essential to recognize that for many, the holidays can be particularly challenging and emotionally taxing. And so we want to take out a moment to minister to those folks. According to American Psychological Association, 38% of people experience an increased stress during the holiday season. These stats shed light on the reality that while the holidays can be a time of togetherness and joy, for some, it can serve as a reminder of loss, loneliness, and unmet expectation. And so, furthermore, the pressure to maintain the facade, this is what something we're going to deal with in a few minutes. The pressure to maintain the facade of cheer can intensify the feelings of isolation and inadequacy for those struggling with grief and depression. Whether it's the absence of a loved one, financial strain, or the strain of unmet expectation, the holidays can amplify emotional distress. Today, we are joined by an esteemed panel of health professionals that I personally am acquainted with and have a relationship with. And I feel blessed. I feel so blessed to have these people in my life because there's never a time, and I do mean never a time, that I have to feel like there's no resources for me. So personally, I know each one of these, and they have helped me. And so I knew bringing them together would be a blessing to you as well. So please, please, please continue to share. The numbers are going up. I appreciate you all so very much. If someone you know is finding these times challenging, please get them on here as we delve into what I believe is going to be a very healing and encouraging time. So stay with us on this journey, and I do call it a journey intentionally because I believe that tonight, for many, will take you to another level. For some, it'll be the beginning of your healing. Others, it'll be a continuation of what you've already started. So for all of us, it's a journey, and I recommend all of my guests tonight for consultation with you after it's over. I'll make sure all the information is available to you, so that if you do need to follow up, and they can help you get connected to somewhere local where you are to get the help that you need. But thank you for being here tonight, and I want you to again feel free to get the family around the computer or the laptop or whatever smart device you're using, because tonight is going to be an incredible night. If I seem excited, it's because I am, because I know we will not be in the same place when it's over as when we start. I do see my beautiful wife has joined us, and I will always stop and pause and respect and honor her, for she is uh, all of that to me. So thank you, Lady Chantel, for joining us tonight. Hello to you and welcome. Well, this year has been I'm not going to testify long, but this year has been a challenging year for me. Started off very positive with my elevation in Church of God in Christ to auxiliary bishop. That's a whole other show, but it meant a lot to me. And then at the end of this year, on December 16th, January 16th was my elevation. December 16th was my graduation with my long-awaited doctorate of theology. And so it was a sweet beginning and a sweet ending to this year for me. But in between, it was tragic. I started writing a book just because our church had experienced multiple passings of members of our church and family members of our church. We went through a season where it seemed like every other month or so we was involved in grieving the passing of loved ones. So I had encouraged our members some years ago when several of our members had lost their parents to do something in their name, to start a legacy, something that could give you a positive memory of your loved one. So then we talked about putting a grief ministry together. We brought in uh, uh, Apostle Joshua Smith one year and just helped us with some grieving after Pastor Sweeney's passing to help the church to get back upon our feet. The soul healing ministry that he has is absolutely phenomenal. And so he came in, blessed us, gave us some real good pointers on how to move. And I decided then I would write a small little writing on grief. I forgot what it was called at the time. The name has changed since then. However, right in the midst of me finishing that up just for the rough draft, I was personally hit with grief. Um, my brother passed away suddenly. That took me for a major loop in my life. And then after I was ordained, well, I shouldn't say ordained, consecrated in January of this year, that same night after coming off of that great high, my wife had to break the news to me that my nephew, uh, uh, 33 years old, had been found dead. And my first official act as a bishop in this organization was to eulogize my nephew. Um, 2 months later, in March, a precious daughter, Kelly, that we all love, Kelly Randall, just again, suddenly it was not ill, not sick, just gone. And then 2 months later, my nephew, Alvernis Johnson, who's named after me, suffered a stroke, 36 years old, gone. So it became so that stopped my writing. I couldn't finish the book, and I thought maybe I wrote that to help myself. So I took some time and just sort of digested it. Um, but I'm glad to say that um, tonight only, you're going to be able to receive this writing from now until midnight Thursday. Um, you can pre-order it for $10. $10. You can pre-order Good Grief. That's the name of the writing now. It went through some different name changes, but this is the final name because it's a good way to grieve. I used to, I know what I called it before. I called it grief as a thief. That's what I, that's what I called it. And we had a program here. Let me just tell you about growth. We had a program here with these same individuals that I'm going to introduce to you in just a moment. And during that program, um, between the three of them, they were talking about the good parts of grief, and it changed my entire theory on that title, because while I still believe grief can be a thief, I still believe that to a degree. I didn't want to put that out there like that because I found out through these wonderful individuals and my own research that it's a good thing, and if you grieve properly, it can be a positive thing. So that's how the name changed. So we're not calling it that. No, we're calling it Good Grief. Now, of course, it's a small play on Charlie Brown. Y'all that don't that's you don't know nothing about that. But Good Grief, Charlie Brown was a saying, and so we kind of lighten it up a little bit. And you can order that tonight. All right, we'll show you how you can do that by going to the website. Hey, Candace, sorry, y'all, I'm not being partial. I just saw somebody that I knew. Um, Go to the website, alvernisjohnson.com, alvernisjohnson.com, and you can order Good Grief tonight. Pre-order it. It'll be released on December 31st. December 31st is the official release date of Good Grief. But you can pre-order tonight for $10. After midnight Thursday, it will go to the normal price of $15 for the hard copy, and I think $7 for the download. But no, $10. I don't know. I messed that up. $10 tonight. That's all you need to know. You can pre-order your copy for $10. All right. So, and I'll come back and share a little bit more of that later. Again, I want to go ahead and bring my guests on because I want to give. It's 7:15, and I'm right on schedule. I want to give the bulk of my time to this conversation, and so I want to introduce you. For some of you are maybe watching here for the first time, and you have not seen them on with me before, but this is our third time being together, and I'm excited to have these wonderful people. I want to bring on Robert Compton. Robert Compton currently serves as a consultant for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, also as a private clinician. He has over 30 years experience as a LLP, which is a limited licensed psychologist, and holds a master's RC degree in counseling. He is a man of great integrity. He's a passionate individual who serves his clients with vigor and with dedication. I've watched him give his time, his efforts, his energies beyond the call of duty to make sure that those he served are well. I'm so happy to have him. He's married to his lovely wife, Miss Renee Compton. He has two children, a son and a daughter, and he's a man of faith, a member of Perfecting Church. And we're so glad to have you here tonight. Thank you, Robert, for joining us tonight. I'm excited to talk to you because we have a little thing that's between us, a little fun thing. I tell people, if you want to do some harm, and you don't know how to get to me, if you can convince Robert to get me to drink it, I'll drink it because that's how much I trust him. Honestly, I mean, just his dedication to health and wellness, physically and mentally, have inspired me over the years, and so I just trust him. And it started because I went to his house one night, and I'm very skeptical about what I'm a skeptic. Everybody knows that. I don't eat hot enough to drink nothing, just my regular stuff. But he says it, and then his wife was like, "Well, how he get to you?" I said, "Because I trust Robert. So if he says try this, it's gonna keep you awake. I drink it because I was on my way home for a long trip. I drank it and did keep me awake. I trust him. Thank you, Robert, for being here. Yes. You're a great asset to our lives.
Thank you so much, Bishop.
Also, I want to bring on now Jennifer R. Brundige. Jennifer has over 18 years experience in her field. She is also holds a master's RC degree in counseling. She is an LPC, licensed practicing counselor here in the state of Michigan. Her areas of concentration are domestic violence, sexual assault, and EMDR therapy, family and life and marriage counseling. All right. She has been married to her wonderful husband for it's been 5 years. Wow. I didn't realize the elder Tierra Brundige. All right. I want to bring her. She presently works for the Underground Railroad here in Saginaw, Michigan, and she also has a private practice as well. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Good evening.
You know, I feel so educated being all the people coming on here. I feel like I'm doing something amazing.
Good evening, brother. Bless you.
Bless you. All right. So, and final but not least, I want to bring on to the screen this young man who the Lord blessed me to come into his company. It's been quite some time. We might be working on 12th, 13th year. Easily. 12th. Yeah. I know it's 12, I know it was close to 12, 13 years. And so I'm his growth and his maturity in life and ministry is a wonderful thing to watch. You know, and when you have the opportunity, when God blesses you with inside scoop to people, you honor that. When you can watch a person, as a young man, I went down there. I won't tell the story, but it was a very different from what it is today. But to watch him blossom and to be such an incredible individual, it's a personal joy for me. Over 15 years in the field, areas of concentration and expertise: depression, anxiety, grief, and trauma. He recently, he recently was conferred with the honor of a doctorate degree in counseling. He graduated on the 15th. I graduated on the 16th. I just felt like that was just an amazing thing for our history, and he was already doing the work. Not only did he graduated with honors. Um, his
Amen.
his um, his defense, they raved about his presentation. Joshua is dedicated to what he does. He has a passion to help make healthy churches across the world, and that is something that we need. And so I'm so happy to have him here. He uh, he is the founder of J.P. Smith Enterprises in Soul Healing, Psychotherapy, and Wellness. He is married to his wonderful wife Rihanna, and they have a beautiful new baby who is running their lives. Her name is Zoe, and so uh, let's welcome Joshua to the program again tonight. So these are my guests. These are my guests.
Good evening.
Well, I've already expressed my joy to have you here. So why don't we open just by letting me give you an opportunity. I'll start with Jennifer, ladies first, and we'll go to Robert and then Joshua. Give some opening remarks, and then we'll jump right into our questions tonight.
Well, Bishop, I just thank you for Bishop Doctor. My apologies. I thank you for
Don't
just
start.
allowing me to join you tonight. Huh?
Don't start.
I thank you for allowing me to join you tonight. I think tonight is cathartic for me. Tonight is 2 years to the day that I lost my mother. And so when you said it would be, the presentation would be tonight, I said, well, Father, I will use this day to help redefine December 20th. And so I'm grateful just to be here. And I'm looking forward to whatever we can share tonight.
Amen. Wow. Thank you, Robert.
Well, Bishop, again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this distinguished panel. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I just want to congratulate you on your achievements of late. But in terms of what the topic is today, like you said, there's a number of things that has happened over this year, and I would say over a number of years, specifically even before the pandemic happened, and even since then, that this is a timely topic and a necessary topic. I myself have gone through the process of grief as I just lost a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago who died suddenly, who I knew for over 52 years, a very good friend. And so as we go through this process, it's a never-ending process, and something that we really need to embrace.
Wow. Thank you, and
Greetings.
thank you for sharing that moment with us. I appreciate that.
Yes. Greetings, Dr. Johnson and the wonderful panel. I'm excited to be here tonight, even on vacation. I thank my wife for the release to come on and to do what I love to do, and that's help people heal. So I'm glad to be here. Grief is something that I've been helping people through for a lot of years. I've dealt with my own personal grief. This year has been interesting as it relates to people coming in or scheduling therapy sessions virtually, wanting help through grief. So everyone's not happy and jolly through this time. So I'm honored to be here to help add my voice to this discussion.
Right. Well, before I ask our first question or a discussion starter, let me thank all of the spouses of these esteemed guests tonight. To Rihanna Smith there, thank you for allowing him to have a moment away from vacation. We promise not to keep him all night. Thank you, Elder Brundige, for allowing, because this could be a time you would want to be with your wife, comforting her. Thank you for allowing, and to Miss Alvernis Compton. All the spouses, we thank you so much for allowing these wonderful people to share with us tonight. So let's start with understanding grief. There's a lot of people, and I'll be honest, I didn't totally understand it. When I used to use the phrase "grief is a thief," I preached that at funerals and everything. I was tearing that thing up. Not that I was completely wrong, but I think I had a misconception of how positive grief could be. And so let's do this. Jennifer, I want to start with you.
Yes, sir.
What is grief, and why is it important to understand the different stages and manifestations?
Well, grief at its essence, at its core, is a sense of loss. It is the emotion that is derived from there was something present in my life that is now, for whatever reason, no longer the case. It is not exclusive to death. I know often when we make reference to grief, it's often regarding death, but it is any sense of loss. It is divorce, it is the loss of a job, it is the loss of physical abilities that one used to have, it's the loss of cognitive ability. It can even be grief regarding people's perceptions of us, how we're viewed in the public eye, in the public arena. Grief is simply a sense of loss. It is, I find it important to have a sense of grief's stages and manifestations because we kind of need to have a sense of how to move around in the world. We need to know where we are with regards to our triggers. We need to know how to correspond with other people who are maybe, perhaps they're not grieving. They may be in a place that they are fine, everything's well, and they are not necessarily able to comprehend where we are emotionally. I think it's also important to understand because sometimes you have to put people on notice when you're in certain stages of grief and without having a sense of where you are and what's going on there, it can be difficult to say, hey, listen, today I need to be silent. Today I just don't have what it takes to talk. Or today I need to talk all day long. I need you to be that listening ear. Having that sense of where you are in terms of your stages, that is helpful in order to just kind of know how to navigate relationships that you experience from day to day.
Great. Thank you so much. Robert, if you don't mind, um, just talking about those stages. I know we'll probably hit it a few times here, but there are, and I do apologize that I cannot recall, um, and I kept this person's name in my head. It's in my book, so but there are 5 stages of grief, and please just refresh me on the writer of that if anybody knows. Um, but
Kubler-Ross.
thank you, thank you, and it should be I should have it like you had it, but I will for now. Can you discuss those 5 stages and how they work?
Well, yeah, there's been developed in the 1960s by Kubler-Ross, the 5 stages of grief, and they since expanded a little bit more to add one on one end and one on the other, so there can be a sense of 7. Those stages basically are shock and denial. There's anger. There's disbelief and bargaining. There are sadness. There's what's called recovery. And then there is almost like a rebounding of peace that happens within the grieving process. They're not linear. People can move through different stages at different times. They can go back to stages. It's a very dynamic experience. And there's no necessarily time limit in terms of those stages as well. Grief can last as short, depending on what it is. Grief can last as short as a couple of weeks, or it can be longer over a period of years, depending on what kind of grief a person happens to have, because there's different types of grief as well. So in terms of those stages, again, it's a dynamic kind of process that people go through. And what Kubler-Ross tried to do was just try to identify those to let us as clinicians and others know where somebody might be, so that we be able to more identify and help them through those processes.
Right. And so I also understand that the grieving process can be both physical and emotional, and
Absolutely.
So a lot of times these things manifest themselves in physical form. Dr. Smith, can you address that?
Sure. So we have physiological distress. There is separation anxiety that can occur. Also yearning. So yearning for that individual or yearning for the previous state, as Jennifer already mentioned, grief encompasses loss in general. So just yearning for what life used to look like, right? And also apprehension about the future. So what is my future? Where do I go from here? I can't imagine my life without this thing or this person, or this whatever. And so what do I do about my future? Where do I go from here? Physically and physiologically, it can also affect our breathing. There's some research that has been done about grief actually impacting the lungs. And so grief literally can take our breath away and cause us not to be able to catch our breath and feel like we're running and we're racing through time, but not really moving. So grief can impact the lungs. It can also impact like the shoulders, such as stress and anxiety can get into the shoulders. I remember going to a masseuse and they asked me what I do. And I said, well, I counsel other people. So I was counseling people through a lot of things, but also carrying the weight of their burdens on my shoulders, in my muscles. So all that had to be worked out of me. So grief can impact you physically, emotionally, and even spiritually.
Right. Well, this is not in our notes, but I want to ask this question because it's gnawing at me. Is it possible? Anybody can answer this. Is it possible to grieve and not know you're grieving?
I don't think it's possible for a person not to know they're grieving. I think they might be in a state where they try to deny that process. Because again, grief is something that you feel not only in the psychological part of yourself, but also in the physical part of yourself. Grief is something that everybody experiences. I mean, I kind of read it and I do believe it. It said that grief is the conjoined twin to love.
Yeah.
If you don't love anything, you'll never grieve.
Wow.
And I think Bishop Jake said it best, is that there's no tear duct that's ever been developed that won't be used. So we all are going through a process of grief. And again, if you never have passion about anything and never hold anything up at an esteemed level, then you won't have grief, because grief is that loss of something that you value. And that can be anything. Now, we typically, of course, equate it to death and separation by death, but it can be other things as well. It can be something as simple as losing a job or having to move. So people go through grief, but I think it's what they believe in society, how they're allowed to express that grief that might make them either deny that they're having these emotions or feel compelled or feel open to express them.
100%, brother. And if I can piggyback off of that, one manifestation I often see is just pure anger masquerading. You is often witnessed, even just where I work and what I do with women of domestic violence. A lot of times there's a lashing out, there's a fury, there's a rage that is in the exterior. That's what you see when you first initially encounter them, try to talk, just that hard exterior presentation. And often when you dig a little deeper, a lot of times it didn't even take a lot of deep digging, just a little bit deeper, you start to see that sorrow start to come up and the tears will begin because, oh, well, I don't have a home anymore when I used to have a home, and I don't have a family anymore when I used to have a family to lean on. So grief often can masquerade as other emotions, but often I see it as anger often.
Yeah, and I'll pivot from that, because those are great answers. But I'll just add to that some people know what they're feeling because they're not able to identify that this is associated with grief, such as the anger. I saw, as Dr. Compton said, everyone grieves, but do you know what grief is? And so I believe that that's why those stages were developed, so that people can see, hey, this is something that everybody experiences. And as Jennifer said earlier, to know where you are, to have a baseline for yourself, so you can know when something is not normal for you.
So it sounds like that particular stage teeter-totter between anger and denial. And the reason I ask that is because I deal with a lot of people who say they're okay and really want to convince you that I'm fine. No, I've gotten over that. I'm past that. Yet you can tell that they're grieving because of these manifestations. And so I ask that so that our listening audience can sort of come to grips with the fact that when you're feeling certain ways and having certain emotions, you need to accept the fact that this thing hurt, and pride, which is not probably in Boss's book, but certainly it's in the good book. Uh, Pride will try to support that denial, because you know, um, as a man leading my family, I don't always want to let my kids know how bad that hurt. As a husband, trying to um, um, portray strength to my wife, I may not want to let her know how deeply that loss of that job affected me. I don't care. I'm moving on. You can. Let me ask it in this way: is it possible to move on yet be stuck?
Well, moving on is subjective because you can move on physically. You can move on your job if you still have one. You can move on with your family, but still be stuck emotionally with regards to every night when our head hits the pillow, that face comes in my dreams. That face comes
Yeah.
in my nightmares. Absolutely. You can move on in one sense and be stuck for years, decades in other senses, 100%. I see it all the time. Decades, especially when grief takes place in childhood, unresolved, particularly. I mean, you see it in 50s and 60s where there's still um, not a problem with finances necessarily, not a problem with keeping up the house necessarily, not a problem with some daily activities, but there's still the stuck manifestation in terms of not being able to sometimes forgive, sometimes let go of grudges, anger. A lot of that ties in with long held grief.
I'm glad we went down this path, and we discussed this before we came on, that we knew that there would be some rabbit trails that we'd have to take just to get to some resolve. Because I think what's important in what I've seen over and over again is helping people come to grips with admitting, the pain that they're in, and uncovering those secrets, secret hurts that y'all mentioned a couple of times. Society and culture sometimes puts undue unrealistic expectations on people to be okay, right? They expect you. Well, your mom's been dead a year. You're not okay yet. You've been divorced over 6 years, and you're remarried. What are you talking about?
Right.
I think that it's dangerous to move on and not be healed. The Bible says about the walking on a broken ankle. It's a friend who can't be trusted is worse than working on a broken ankle. When you continue to move forward, you injure yourself more deeply. And so I'm hoping that tonight, those of you who are listening would be okay with admitting where you are, and then doing what it takes to heal. And that brings me to our next point, if it's okay if I move on now, and that is finding healthy coping mechanisms, and the importance of that. And so everybody, and this is my personal belief, has a coping mechanism. We cope some type of way. It may not be healthy, but everybody's coping in some kind of way. So let's talk about that. What are some healthy coping mechanisms that people can use to process their grief? And I'll start with Robert, if you don't mind.
Okay. So again, depending on the stage of grief or what kind of grief a person actually has, because again, if they're in normal grief or something called complicated grief, which is something that's prolonged and can go on for years, has been discussed, or even traumatic grief, which is something also that can be a long-standing state of affairs. I believe that people, first of all, should grieve as much as they love. I mean, it should be that deep. Our culture, again, tends not to promote grief or the expression of grief, because we as African American people, there was a cost to us showing our emotions.
That's good.
We couldn't show who we were because that could either mean the death of yourself or the death of your loved ones. So a lot of masking, a lot of being strong, keeping forward was always promoted. And some of those things are still promoted through our culture. But in terms of taking back our hearts and our souls around grief, structured support, making even a memorial for somebody, making a memory box for that specific person. Sometimes people they lose the possibility of a future when they lose people or lose a job or have to move or something happens to them where they lose physical ability. So kind of celebrating those losses and the newness, because it's going to be a new normal. See, the thing about also a loss is that there's going to be a change. So the things that we thought that we might be able to achieve, there's a shift and a change. So we have to celebrate sometimes that shifting and changing and know that everything won't be the same, but there can be something new, and celebrate the newness. Grasping that, seeking professional help, seeking help from others that have the ability to support structure and support different ways of handling grief, or even identifying the person's emotions. Because as Dr. Smith talked about, sometimes people don't even have a language for their emotions.
That's good.
Journaling, writing things down. That's a really good way. And grief is something else that's held in the body. So a lot of body work, so exercise and movement can be very beneficial as well. And then allowing a person to just have their own emotions, a person allowing themselves to feel what they feel in a private space, crying, screaming, laughing, or whatever comes up, just allowing that to be and sitting with that.
Somebody just mentioned working on trying to find the new normal. One thing I would encourage you to do if you're working on finding that new normal is try your level best not to compare your grief to anybody else's. Try not to do that. I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but I would encourage you to try to do that because it's so individual. It's so unique to each person. There's so much nuance to each individual situation. I mean, even in just the last, some of you all know my father passed in October, end of October. So there's 2 back-to-back within less than 2 years' time. And people often come to me and they ask me, okay, you seem strong. You seem like you got it together. You seem like you're okay. How? Well, I mean, and I have to say this, my folks were elderly and I knew that it was coming. They were not well. They were sick. It's a whole different situation. It's a whole level of preparedness that I had that you may not have had when you kissed them at 7 o'clock in the morning and then you get a call at 9 that they're gone. Whole different situation. And so I would certainly encourage those who are looking to find that new normal to understand your situation is completely unique to you. You may feel the need to have more time to process, to deal, to heal. You may want medication. You may want to sit down with a professional. Somebody else who's walked like me, my parents through months and months of illness, it's more like, okay, they're at peace. They're all right. It's a little easier to step back. I would certainly say work on not comparing.
Wow, those are some really. Oh, go ahead. Please.
No, please.
Okay, those are some really good ones. I was just going to throw some gasoline on the fire a bit, and I was going to say that we also need to or can leverage our faith and our spirituality with this grief process. Many people have heard, and some people may not have heard of the term spiritual bypassing, and that is really the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to kind of sidestep or avoid facing the process. And we've all come to the conclusion so far that grief is a process, but often we can use our spirituality as kind of like a placebo pill, if you will, to kind of gloss over what we need to be really dealing with. And so I want to encourage that as a coping mechanism. Like if you have a prayer that you do, add some works to that faith. So those works may include journaling, it may include body work, it may include a support group, it may include going to see a therapist, a professional. But add to your faith, because when you're done quoting scriptures and praying and shouting at your service, there's still some life to be lived after that, and you got to go through that process. So again, faith without works is dead. And so when you avoid spiritual bypassing, what you're saying is, I'm going to be honest with my feelings, because I have a high priest that can be touched by my feelings. So I'm not going to use my faith to kind of gloss over that. I'm going to use my faith to help me work through it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. This wonderful discussion. I want to interject something that you hit on, Dr. Smith, and that is our faith. And we do understand that everybody does not share in our beliefs and share in our faith, but those who do, we offer hope for those who do share our faith. We offer a tremendous hope for you. Jessica earlier asked, how do you celebrate anew when it's a loss of a loved one? Well, in respect to the faith that we're talking about, one thing that I think we have to start to understand as believers, and I do I do intentionally speak to believers. This world that we live in, this helped me. Let me just be transparent. My brother passed away suddenly. No preparedness, no time for getting ready. Now, he did have some health challenges, but I just saw him receive a miracle of his sight. He had lost his eyesight because of diabetes. I was in the service with him, and he received his sight. And we talked on the telephone, and he was telling me, man, I read my Bible for the first time in a couple of years. Man, I'm enjoying my grandkids. We're having a wonderful conversation. And his wife called me a few hours later, like you just described, Jennifer, and said he's not responding. Well, I was devastated. So at that moment, I'm not celebrating the new. But when I sobered up and I understood that my brother lived to escape this world. I mean, this is old school preaching, so y'all just get ready. There was a hope beyond this world, hope beyond this earth, and I know that physical presence is devastating to lose, but the joy that I have in my heart knowing that my brother lived the life to live where he is today, and again, I've taught this in our church that you can't just love a person one dimensional. The sad part about many of us is our love is one dimensional. It's just what we see, what we hear, taste, touch, feel. And again, you got to get beyond that. The person's spirit never dies. Have guidance, and I'm not talking about some weird, witchcraft stuff. But I'm guided by my grandparents. I'm guided by the wisdom that they left me. I'm guided by those who have impacted my life in a positive way. I can hear them giving me advice. Maybe not, a holographic image of them popping up on the table like a little miniature person, a ghost of them. But I know what they would say. I love them enough to know their spirit. You can love a person one-dimensional, and then when they're gone, they're gone. But you can love a person three-dimensional, and they're never gone. And so I would say to Jessica that one of the ways you can celebrate the new is that the people that pass this life, they pass on to a greater life. And that we celebrate for every believer. All right. And so thank you. I mean, I'm enjoying this. I mean, the comments are coming in. I'm getting text messages that people are not putting on, and I'm not going to expose anybody, but there are people who are being healed. And let me say this to you guys: it's not just what you're saying; it's your presence. Like you are anointed with a presence. The fact that you are tunneling through your own struggles and making sacrifices, that's coming across to the people, and people are being healed. And I'm getting text messages. And I want to say that is great. Let me ask this as a follow up to the healthy coping mechanism. I don't know. Are y'all getting that feedback?
A little bit.
Okay. I just give me a thumbs up. Excuse me, a thumbs up if you're all okay. In the chat, I want to make sure you guys are getting it. Are there any specific activity? Well, you kind of answered this. Let me watch my question. Um, I want to go back to something that Robert mentioned earlier, and it kind of answered. He answered the question, but I want to dig a little deeper. Are there any specific activities or practices that can help people navigate through their grieving process? You mentioned a memory box, and I wanted to talk about that. Like what is that? And so somebody can maybe do that tonight. What is a memory box, and how's that work?
Well, a memory box is just that. It's something that you dedicate to maybe a person or maybe an experience, and you kind of decorate it. You put things in it from the person that if you have a person who passed, so you have a memento of them, or you have pictures of them with you, and you put that in the box. Or you put something, their favorite cologne, you can put that in the box, and you can decorate the box out. But it's just like a celebration of that person's life,
Excellent.
and whatever you want to connect with that person, how you remember them, you can put in that box, and that can be like a memento for that person. And
Right.
whenever you feel you want to get closer to them, you can touch some of their items that's in the box, or you can smell the cologne, or have their favorite blanket or something they gave you. All of that can be those tangible things that can reconnect you to the person. And even as you were talking about the fact that we don't love one dimensional, people, even though they transition, the love for that person doesn't die.
It does.
And we can keep that alive. And we can honor those people by keeping that love alive and spreading that love to others and giving them away as we give that love that we've incubated with them in our relationship with them, and sharing it with other people.
Excellent.
Amen.
And
Can I add to the memory box? That is a beautiful idea, and we are so blessed in our day and age to be able to have our phones where we could keep so many pictures, videos, voicemails, voice memos. We're blessed among generations to be able to contain so much from our loved ones. I have 4,000 some pictures and videos from my mom. I didn't even know I had that many, but it blesses me to be able to just know I have that. If I need to see her face, I can see her face. If I need to hear her voice, I can hear it. But I have to say something about that, and it's very important for the holidays. If something is too much for you and you know it's too much,
Mhm.
it is totally okay to take the picture, put it to the side,
Absolutely.
and just tuck it away. You
Mhm.
don't have to stare at a person's picture
Yes,
to prove the depth of your love.
correct.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to listen to the voicemail every day 20 times to prove how deep your love was. You don't have to do that. Good to have it, because sometimes you do want to have those happy memories. You want to just think back on the good times, 100%. But it's good to know when to have the box, and it's good to know when to slide it to the side. Because if I hold on to this box too much today, then my mind starts to go down that rabbit hole. And that's when it's easy to slip into deeper sorrow,
So,
deeper sorrow. And you do that too much, then it comes into your depression and things of that nature. So, yeah, love never
that's a
dies
great
with
point,
me.
Jennifer. That's a great point, Jennifer, and I'm glad you brought it up. Not, but it does open up a brief discussion I need us to have to our next topic, and that is helping people um, be okay with healing. Because a lot of people feel like if I heal and I don't miss them as much, am I dishonoring the person that's gone? So somebody help us with that. Help us with being okay with moving on and getting better. That's anybody.
Well, I feel like I'm working on doing it from day to day. I mean, what can I say? I strive to believe that my parents are looking down on me with some level of appreciation and joy when they see me. I I try to do the things that they taught me. I try to honor their memory by being the woman that they always wanted me to be. And so I don't feel like it, moving on that's also subjective. Moving on, I'll always keep them in my spirit. Every time I look in the mirror, I see my mom. I can't not see her. And the older I get, the more I see her. So, I mean, I feel like it's almost like I still carry her with me every day. And she gets to see, my father gets to see who I'm becoming, what I'm doing, how I'm accomplishing. And I don't know. I don't feel like, for me, I don't feel like it's abandonment. I don't feel like it's a betrayal to who they are. Because I feel like it's an are, not a were. I don't feel like my parents were. I feel like they are.
Yeah.
And they still live and they still exist. And I feel like when the time comes for me to see them again, I'll be able to say, listen, Ma, Dad, I did what you wanted me to do. I was who you always hoped I would be. And I feel like that's how I honor them, by getting up, by moving on. In fact, I had conversations with them prior to their passing that they wanted me to do just that, move on. Do not stay stuck. Do not stay in a place where you're crying forever over somebody who has finished their course and kept the faith. Now you got to finish your course. Now you got to keep the faith. You do what you saw me do.
That's good. And I'm glad you addressed that because there's a comment here. It's almost saying everything said. She says sometimes I feel like if I move on, I'm forgetting the person, and there could be a level of guilt that comes with that. Like I should be sad longer. I should be. I mean, because like you said earlier, grief is past. I members still there, and I'm better. So I just thought it's important to minister to those people as well. If you're getting better, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open a can of worms here. I hope that the other panelists can help me to try to clarify if I step in on a landmine, but I want to say this. When we talk about acute grief or natural grief, even in the grieving process, there's breaks of light, there's breaks of happiness, there's breaks of fond memories of the person or the situation that you had. So there's a kind of an ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Okay. But if a person finds themselves kind of stuck in a state of despair, longing, depression, guilt, or they're stuck in a state of where they get angry, irritable, or they're just stuck on the person leaving, or they feel so connected to them that they want to leave as well. Those are some signs of this now developing into something different than natural grief. You're going into complicated grief. If the person like died suddenly in a car accident or something happened very tragically, the person can be stuck in what's called traumatic grief. And trauma is about fear and escape. Okay, and if they start to not go certain places, they can't stand going in certain places. They try to make the world smaller. They start, avoiding sights and sounds of the person. That's when it's starting to go into something where, those other means of professional help should be sought out.
Right.
And other support systems, maybe again, professional support systems should be sought out because you're going into stages of grief that can be prolonged and very complicated and can last for years.
Yeah. If I can add to that, that was very good. With the prolonged grief, complicated grief, traumatic grief, all of those are things. So I kind of grade it this way. If someone comes into my office and it's been a month to 6 months and they've experienced a loss of that person or that job or whatever, we're looking at that acute grief that you talked about. Like that is natural normal, air quotes on purpose, normal, natural grieving, because again, for everyone. And if someone comes in and they're having a low mood, like, we wouldn't diagnose them with major depressive disorder, not yet, because we have to wait and see that if this resolves or not, right? So if we start getting to a year or more, and as Dr. Compton said, we can't look at pictures, we can't go certain places. Now we're getting into those other diagnoses, such as complicated grief, prolonged grief, etc. And that's absolutely the time when a person should seek professional help to help them to walk through, because the coping mechanisms that we use, they're good and we should use them. But there are times when you got to call in, you're stuck in a ditch, you got to call a tow truck, like, get me out of this because I'm stuck in this. I also recommend for anybody, because I've seen so much grief as a leader and in my life, like, I recommend that as soon as, like, maybe 2 to 3 weeks after that service, like, you go and you get, like, just to make sure you're okay, right? Just to check in, just to see what that baseline is, and don't wait until don't even give it a chance to become something that is this complicated and prolonged and ongoing. So just make that a part of your natural progression. Like, hey, I just lost this person. Let me go see somebody, 2 or 3 sessions. Let's just see where I am. And then the benefit of that as well is when you may come to a place 6 or 7 months from now that you're like, I need to check back in. You're already on that person's books. You're already in their system. You don't have to, put a Facebook post. Does anybody know any grief counselors? You've already found one, and you just check back in with the counselor that you had.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
This conversation, thank you so very much, all of you. This conversation is so wonderful. I mean, the comments are blessing me, beyond my expectation. So thank you all so very much. To just take a quick pause here to let all of our viewers know that I finally completed the book called Good Grief. You know that tonight, only from now until midnight, we are offering a resource to you. You can pre-order it for just $10. All of our panels, all the panelists have reviewed a synopsis of this book, and they have given their own endorsement from the part being able to explore. So I want you to go to the site www.alvernisjohnson.com or just alvernisjohnson.com, and you can pre-order your book Good Grief for the next 24 hours for just $10 donation. Now, we a couple of years ago during the COVID-19 breakout, I wrote a book entitled, I think I got a copy of it right here, shameless plug. It's entitled Surviving COVID-19 from Viruses. And all the proceeds went toward those who were suffering COVID-19. We helped people, we helped people who are out of work, that kind of thing. And so I want to see from this book to support our grief ministry here at our church. We want to be able to help beyond the altar, what we call altar care. And so as you saw that seed tonight, that seed is going in to help to fund that particular venture to here at Kingdom Life Ministry. So it's a great read. All my panelists have given me a thumbs up. I sent it to them before I sent it out to you, and I got thumbs up. So this is my comfort zone right here. For certain things, they're my comfort zone. So good, then I'm good. So go ahead and get that book, and I'll give you an opportunity before we let you go to order it again. But tonight to midnight, you can pre-order your copy. It will be available on December 1st of this year, and I know it's going to be a great resource. Also, you sewing into this project as I do homegoing. I'm going to offer this book free to families, and so they'll be able to read this book. So those who are who we counsel. So this is not my New York bestsellers that's going to buy me a Rolls Royce. I want you to understand that this is not the book. That one's coming later. This is not the one. This right here is going to write ministry to help those who are in need. So thank you for your support, and I appreciate that. I will put it up again before we're done. Now our conversation have taken some turns, and we've gotten into some of the topics that we agreed to discuss. So I won't repeat those topics, but I'll just go through them to make sure we covered everything. But right now, up that we have to deal with the elephant in the room. All that y'all talking, all y'all done has brought us to a subject that is very controversial in the Christian arena. Has been for years. It's better, but it's definitely not resolved. So we have to deal with how to get past the stigma of getting professional help. Because everybody said that at one point. It comes a point where you have to, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble with some of y'all old time people. Get off the altar and get on the couch. There comes a point in your grieving process, your process of loss, that you have to be okay with knowing that everything is not demonic. Some things are actual medical and they're mental and they're chemical, and you need some help. Now, as a preacher, 40-some years of preaching the gospel, I never would have thought I'd be sitting in front of anybody saying that what I just said, because I thought that Jesus paid it all, but then I found out he don't have no insurance anyway. So we've got to help them get past the stigma of going to get professional help. So please, let's just spend about a minute or two on that.
Can I go first?
Please.
Because this is part of what my dissertation was on. So I'll say this: in the Bible, we can all agree, if we know our Bibles, that let's just use prophet. Prophet was an occupation, right? That's who you were. You were a prophet. You were a full-time prophet. So in that same Bible, counselor is also an occupation. 11 and 14 tells us that there's safety in a multitude. So there's no stigma. Our culture has placed the stigma on it for whatever reason, and there are reasons that we know. But our Bible says that there's safety in a multitude of counselors. It says before a king goes to war, he's going to seek out counsel. That's the basis of counseling. So I'll say, just as we look at other professions in the Bible, carpenter, all of these professions, we also have counselor as a profession. So again, there's safety in it. We have to make sure that our soul is healed, our soul is well. And so we need to get the help that we need. If we have a physical ailment, we'll go see a medical doctor, whatever kind of doctor that requires. Again, as I said earlier, we have to add to our faith. So if there's something going on mentally that we feel like is insurmountable, then that's the time to seek out that help. There's no shame in it. There's actually safety in it.
Amen. And also, just in studying the Gospels, you don't even have to be deep. I mean, I'm not even a pastor like you all, but I do know that Jesus healed in so many different ways. He stuck fingers in ears and made clay with spittle and told people to just keep walking. He healed in so many different ways, and to assume that everything always has to be at the altar and no other way, that to me, that is clearly not biblical. Our Lord Jesus had so many different modes of operandi, so many. And so I don't think that we should be any exception. I mean, we rebel when we want to. We do what we want to do. I don't see why it's so hard for us to say, well, I can't go see a doctor because that's not our tradition. What traditions do we hardly hold today? For us to act like, wow, I can't, it's too much for me to seek mental health therapy. I don't know why that's an issue. I really don't.
Well, pain is pain. The pain manifested in the body. If it comes in the organs, it becomes some kind of disease. If it comes in the tissues, it becomes some kind of disease. If it happens in the nervous system, it comes up as a mental disorder. It's the manifestation of pain in the body. And I want to steal something from Anita Phillips. We as the Christian faith, we have a couple of things to use. We have our weapons: prayer, supplication, altar, the word of God. And then we have our strategies. Counseling is a strategy. And you can't go to war without a strategy, because you got to know how to use your weapons wisely. And, just on a practical sense, the most accomplished people we know in the world have coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be a football star, a basketball star, a singing star, they all have coaches to help them to take whatever they do to the next level.
Yep.
Same thing should be done for us when it comes to our mental health and our mental well-being.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll say this. It's important because even the comments here are confirming that a lot of people have been told that and convinced that, and especially in the Christian culture, and more popularly in the African American Pentecostal circles. One of the mantras that we see here growing up is counsel a demon. I heard that so many times from preachers that are respected, people that are revered as anointed and great leaders would make those blanket statements and to put a stigma, especially when you consider yourself anointed, like you're chosen by God, or you're in ministry. We saw a rash of pastors a few years ago taking their own lives, just one behind the other. The pressures of ministry and life were so overwhelming that they, being preachers of the gospel, could not find in that message that they preached. And I think if we remove that stigma and allow people to get the help that they need without being ashamed, which is why I make no bones about it. I tell people, that I get help. I think somebody said it before. Anything that's about our bodies, we take care of it. I had a terrible lung disease that was making me deteriorate, and so I'm not going to sit on here and look like gummy. I'm not getting ready to look like an alligator on here, crocodile, trying to talk to y'all because I don't believe my bones. I take care of the business. A lot of times we're not ashamed to get the other help that we need. Even when it's cosmetic, I think it's a trick of the enemy. If we want to talk church for a second, to make the people feel that you don't need to get that kind of help. So thank you all for clearing that up. And again, you all are believers, into a panel full of believers who trust God like most Christians do, but they understand and they understand their calling. And so while we're on that, because we really covered subject number 5 very well here with professional help, I do want to what are some different approaches that you all use to help clients? Medical.
Like techniques, you mean?
Yes.
Well, one big one for like cognitive behavioral therapy is the empty chair. That is a technique where the person, now let me preface it by saying this: you might feel a little goofy, might doing some of these techniques. That's just the reality of the situation. But the techniques can be cathartic. They can release emotion in a positive way. So empty chair is one where the person is seated before an empty chair and they are instructed to just talk as if especially if it's a loved one that's passed, as if the loved one is still there, and they're able to share thoughts, feelings, anger, regret, grief, shame, doubt, whatever it is that they need to share. And that is one that I find that can be very helpful in order to release emotions that may have been kind of lodged and repressed. That's one for me.
But before we move on, should we put a disclaimer here on that? Should that be done in the presence of a professional, or is that okay to do it? Yeah.
Well, I would say it is wise to do so because we don't know how powerful the emotions necessarily will be.
Thank
We
you.
don't know, because if you do this by yourself and something rises out of you that you did not know was there, then we could be looking at we could be looking at some ugly situations. So there are
Yes.
absolutely so. Now I think that if you've done it before and you're used to the technique, it may be a little bit more to the point where you feel like you could do it safely alone. But I certainly wouldn't advise it initially.
Yeah, and for the purpose of this program, I'm going to stress that you do that in the presence of a professional, because I just had a vision of people in the chair,
Right.
and
Yes. Yes. This is with
it,
your therapist. This is
it
not
did not look
alone.
good. All right, thank you.
Definitely not alone.
Excellent. Anybody else want to share?
I'll just add, I've done that technique a few times before, and the first time I was fresh out of my master's program, and just thought I would try something because I've been trained to do it, but I thought I'd try it in real life, and it went well. But the person absolutely broke down in my
Sure.
office, and we almost had to like call security or something because they were just like, livid. But what it's doing is bringing up, it's just thought. It's bringing up that unfinished business, those things that we didn't get to say. Maybe the person left unexpectedly, they left traumatically, and there's some things like that you've held on to that, I wish I could say this. And I do want to also say that, we're not advocating like talking to spirits. That's not what this is. This is
Right.
not like necromancy.
Right.
This is you with you, right? But you're just really imagining that that person is there, and you're getting to pour your heart out in a sense. So definitely do it with someone that can kind of help you navigate those complicated emotions, because it may seem silly, but it actually works, and it'll bring up some things. So I'll tag to that and say also, I for CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, I also give homework. So I may ask the client to go home and maybe not use a chair, but write a letter. Like that can be cathartic as well, like writing. So it's kind of like you're journaling, but you're writing a letter to that person. I actually have people do that to living people. Of course, you don't send it, right? But if you need to walk through some forgiveness or get some things off your chest, just kind of write that letter, put everything, address it to the person, and write as if you're going to send it to them, but don't send it to them. So I do use that for people that are dealing with the loss of a loved one or friend. Like, just write a letter, release all of that, and then let's talk about it in the next session.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I've also used that technique as well. But I usually have the person destroy the letter just in case,
Yes.
just to keep it from going in the hands that they might not want it to fall into. Again, another thing is exercise. It really is. A lot of stuff is trapped in the body. Specifically, when we hold things in, we become very tight. Massage can be very helpful. Again, exercise has a number of health benefits, even to a point where it can act as a antidepressant for people who have moderate depression. So breathing, different breathing techniques, deep breathing can be very helpful. And again, those letter writing, getting it out that way. And then stuff like the memory boxes and things like that can be very useful.
This, of course, we never, and I shared this with Rochelle before we came on, that we never have enough time. It's last time we were together, we was hoping to get back together. The subject is so exhaustive until we literally could stay on here for hours. I want to consider the sacrifices you've already made to be here. Just being the memorial of your mom's passing, Jennifer and Robert. I know you're just coming off of the services for your dear friend of 52 years. Josh is on vacation. His wife has been so kind to keep the baby quiet. I don't know how to keep that baby quiet. But whatever sacrifices are being made, I don't want to take advantage of that. However, there are a couple of things that I would love to get to in our final moments here. And we did cover some of the other subjects just by virtue of conversation. And so I'm sort of torn between two subjects. So I'm going to try to moderate this so that we can get both of them, because I really think they're important. Number one is the cultural and religious perspectives. And we sort of hit it a little bit, so we don't have to stay on long. But how do you all feel that culture and religious influence the way that we grieve and how we process loss? And what are some things we can do to make that healthy?
I'll say this. It came to my mind. I think Jennifer was talking when we first started, when she was talking about, like, people were saying that she was so strong, and Bishop, you mentioned like the whole wrong thing. That's definitely cultural. Dr. Compton mentioned it, and I'll just say this: often tell people that time does not heal all wounds. That's a lie. It's actually what you do in the time that you have that heals the wounds. And so if you're not intentionally working toward an end goal, so to speak, or working through that healing process, you're going to be that person that thinks you're healed but get up, with that broken ankle. So I definitely encourage people to abandon many of the cultural and, dare I say, religious like cliches and mantras that we use. Just do a deeper dive in that and really just think through it. Like, does that time is going to heal it? Like, so just think through it and kind of abandon. Don't be afraid to abandon those things that are really not working for you, because as it's been said earlier, grief is very personal. So someone else may say, I can be strong and I got this. Someone else may say, well, I'm not strong today.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, also, I want to look at the self-care component of grieving. A lot of times, I think people fall into a mindset where they will forget that even though you're in sorrow and you're feeling lost. In your case, Jennifer, you were a caregiver for both of your parents, and still maintain your job and your family and that whole 9 yards. So let's talk about just a little bit about what role does self-care play, and then how can individuals prioritize their well-being during such challenging times. Robert, or you know what? I saw Jennifer about to say something. I do apologize.
I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, yeah, self-care is very important. It's important for our well-being altogether, specifically our mental well-being, because unfortunately, in a driven society, we tend not to allow ourselves the breaks that we need in terms of trying to be a balanced person. Um, so to be kind to oneself, to be compassionate with oneself, a lot of times a good gauge is what advice would you give your friends? Because typically we can be very compassionate with a friend, but not so much with our own self. She was speaking to oneself as a friend in the tone of a friend. Um, can be that kind of mind shift that's necessary, that just one mind shift to be necessary to give ourselves the permission to be kind to ourselves. Um, another thing that we love to do is, take the time out to give yourself a good meal. Just taking that time out, taking yourself to a movie, enjoying those things, getting into a support group of like-minded people. There are a number of support groups out for people who have similar experiences. Sometimes talking with other people who've had the same experience as you can be very cathartic, can be very supportive, can be very validating. Those things are avenues we can take for self-care.
And also, the word no is huge for self care. Establishing proper boundaries is huge for self care, because sometimes it's not always what you do, but sometimes it's a pulling away. It's a uh, informing others that I need this time now to do whatever it is that you need to do. And often no can be difficult, because when you're used to giving of yourself and people are trained and used to you giving of yourself, it can be challenging to draw those boundaries and saying, not right now, not right now, not in this season, not at this time. I need whatever strength, whatever energy I have, I need to conserve it to work on my healing, to work on progression and just moving on. So those are a couple other components of self-care as well.
And we give you the permission to do that unapologetically.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
You have been granted permission. I want to pull a question real quick from Melva Lindsay, and we can answer that question. She said, how do you know what's working for you?
I'll answer first, and I'll just say only you can answer that. A therapist can give you strategies. Your spiritual leader can give you wisdom and advice, but really only you know where you are, what's helping you, what's working for you.
Cosign. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me help her out. How do you communicate that to your therapist or spiritual leader?
I'll say by saying this is what I'm doing now. I think oftentimes and not saying that this is her, oftentimes we look for people to say like, yes, that's right, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing this. And really it just comes instinctively just from the inside of you and what you know is good for you. And again, about having that baseline, like you know pretty much what your baseline is in your life. So if what you're doing isn't moving you back to baseline, is moving you further, then that's not working. But you'll be able to feel just like you feel the pain in your body and you feel the grief, like you'll be able to feel like, hey, this isn't working. I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe I should try this.
She said, "That's me." LOL. So you nailed it. Thank you, Millie, for that question. So let me ask you all this: what are some positive outcomes of grief? Because a lot of people may not have gotten in our conversation. What are the positive components of grief? Why should I go through these 5 stages? Why should I lend myself to the process as opposed to just dealing with it, in a very non-professional way? So give me some positive outcomes of grieving properly.
Growth, maturity, wisdom, development. It is nothing quite as unbecoming of a person to reach a certain age where they should be, and I do say should be, of some level of stature, wisdom, and still have the substance of a 12-year-old. There comes a point where it's like, okay, I need to allow this process to play out in such a manner that I'm now able to withstand what I couldn't a couple years ago. I'm able to conquer, overcome, endure what used to take me out. If the process of grief is...
Did we lose Jennifer?
I don't...
No.
You hear me? Hello? Okay. If the process of grief is undertaken in a healthy manner, you absolutely can become a different person that you've ever known before, and that person be a positive person who can turn around and then help and contribute to the building up of other people. So it's important that we allow our grief to develop us in positive ways. And that's where therapy comes in. That's where talking to friends come in. That's where at times medication comes in. But grief can absolutely, if our mindset is where it needs to be, cause us to be a better individual overall.
That's a good segue, Jennifer, into one of our topics, supporting others. I don't want to hit this. I know our time is fleeting. And so how can friends and families best support someone who is grieving without adding extra pressure or stress? One thing, when you... But there are days that, I need that minute, and I don't need you to be saying, "Are you okay? It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Come on, let's go." Sometimes, so help the people that are helping people. Help them.
Well, in the book of Job, when the friends of Job showed up, everything was okay until they opened their mouth. Everybody has, again, a different process for grief and going through that process. And so to be with somebody in an unjudgmental kind of fashion, sometimes just allow that person to vent. And also, if you are in a space where you can't do that day, don't do it, because that can add insult to injury.
Right.
You can do more harm than good in those instances. So you have to know your own ability and tolerance as well. But to give that person that space, not being judgmental in terms of how long they're going through the process. Of course, being concerned, because if you notice, again, those prolonged things happening, you can bring that to their attention. But again, that's not in a matter of being judgment. That's been in a matter of being concerned, which is a different state of being. Again, making helpful encouragement kind of suggestions like open up the blinds for a person, because typically sunlight can also help to change a person's mood and shift their mindset as well. Getting out in nature can also do that. So encouraging them to begin to move in that direction and move and do some things that they normally would do. Again, being able to monitor, but being supportive and not pushing, not being judgmental, not being overcritical. Taking that stance and taking those positions can be very helpful. That's being a support person.
Yeah, I would definitely add to that, just being present. And I was going to use Job. That's where the boom came in, because we just talked about Job last Sunday. And I literally said in Job chapter 2, the one translation said that they showed up for, I think it said comfort and encouragement. And then they started talking. And for the next 2 chapters, they're talking. And now Job is kind of thrown off his square a little bit, because they're throwing all these doubts in his head, like, no, you must have done something. God is punishing you for something. And that was absolutely not the case. So sometimes just being there and being quiet, but being present. I think sometimes we want to just talk faces, but sometimes that person just needs you to be silent.
Absolutely. And I would also add that we should be careful about assumption and presumption. I think that's one of the issues also with Job's friends as well. They just knew his situation better than he did and could tell him up and down and back and forth. See, Job, your problem is this, and then what you did was that. And that is not my situation. We have to be careful to not know a person's situation better than they do. Listen. Let the person tell you where they are. Let the person tell you what they see, what they think, what they feel, and then you find where you fit in. I think a lot of dangerous interactions can take place when you presume to know what this person needs and come in with whatever it is you feel like you ought to do, and that may not be where the person is or what they need at all.
I think it's also important to go back to something that you all said earlier at the top of the program about grieving being so unique and having such a nuance to it that everybody's different. So what you want to avoid doing is bringing up your own personal experiences to a person and how you dealt with it when it happened to you, because that sets an unreal expectation for that person to grieve the way you grieve. So sometimes I know you want to share, you want to say, I've been through this, and let me just say this, because now I feel my preach coming on. I feel a preach coming on. Let me try to stay, show wise, not pulpit wise. But I have to say this: be very careful with comparing war scars and battle scars. And when a person's saying, this have, shoot, I remember one time, my mother and my father at the same time. You don't want to bring your experiences to that person when they're in the midst of grief, and they say, be happy that it was just, all you lost was this. You just lost your job. I lost my job in my house, in my car, the same day. I've heard this kind of stuff. I mean, as fun as it may sound, I've heard people do that, where you're telling your story and sharing your pain, and they say, oh, but let me top that. Let me show you what pain really is. I think you have to be careful. You're not helping. You're not helping by bringing your experiences. When a person is in their moment, let them have that moment. Let it be uniquely their moment. And it's called the ministry of presence.
That's good.
Sometimes just being there is enough. I'm doing this right now, and I want everybody to be praying for one of our apostles. And I mean this sincerely, Apostle James Glenn, who is a father to our ministry, and have been for our 25 years. We've been in this area, and Prophetess Leona Glenn has taken her flight and for her reward. And I reached out to Apostle when I first heard, and not getting a response right away. Sometimes you want to keep on reaching out, like I'm here, and you got to be very careful when people are having their moment, that you don't intrude on those moments where people are putting themselves together and just sometimes need time by themselves. So just being available is important, but not being pushy, and definitely don't compete with that person's pain, and then don't set expectations for them to grieve the way that you did. All right. I know I'm not a panelist, but I just thought I'd throw that in there because again, let's let's talk about this real quick. Let's talk about, and here I go again, but here I go. Let's talk about the place that laughter plays in grief. I really hear that. I really hear people talking about, and you know, contrary to what some may believe, I don't laugh all the time. Um, and, and, and let me say this: just because a person has a sense of humor, don't mean that they don't have sense in other areas.
Right.
That's good.
A lot of people will take people who have that laughter as a joke. Just because I tell a joke, doesn't mean I am one. And so,
Amen.
I want to thank you, sir. And so, but I do understand that laughter for me has been a healing balm in some of my worst times. Let's discuss that for just a minute or so. Does laughter have a place in grief?
You know, Bishop Doctor, I was listening to Kev on Stage. I think you all are familiar with him and his ministry slash comedic style and flair. And he recently lost his brother. And he was noting how, for him, laughter is what got him back on the stage. Laughter is what enabled him. He might have been on tour, maybe when his brother passed, but he was saying, listen, I have to laugh or I'm going to implode. If I don't laugh, I will fall apart. So for him and for many others, laughter is it's a coping mechanism. It is how that person chooses to come through. And there's absolutely, I mean, it does good like a medicine. The scripture is clear
Right.
that it has its place, it has its time, and it is completely appropriate, again, in place and time, 100%.
All right. Well, thank you.
Nothing to add.
I just, again, everybody, like y'all said, copes differently. Well, let me ask this, and then we'll wrap it up. I want to know. Pause. I will give you an opportunity. So if you have questions that you want to ask our panelists, you have about just a few minutes. Put your question in the comment box. We'll take that question uh, and answer as fairly and quickly as possible. So, but let me ask my question. Outside of being, I guess, all-knowing, how does one assess? I'm still on the question of helping. How does one the mode or the read the room of a person when you coming to your help? How do you? What are some tips you can give us to help us navigate through that initial conversation when we're there to lift that person, especially if personality is of a certain way, and that may not be appropriate at that time. Help us with how to come into a room and how besides just sitting there being quiet, because some of us that's impossible.
I would say I would go first as an introvert. I would say come in silently. It doesn't mean you're going to have to stay silent then, but you come in silently because you want to get their feedback, their input. So basically what I'm saying is you want to read their body language. And generally, if a person wants to talk, they're going to talk, right? If they need something, they're going to say, this is what I need, and you won't have to do a lot of jarring. But I would just say of their body language and make sure that you're not coming in with your assumptions of what your body language should be or just your natural personality. Sometimes you have to dial that back so you can assess what that person is so that you don't overstep.
Excellent.
That's exactly what I was going to make reference to, the body language. Just read it
Yeah.
with care, follow those cues, and
Right.
respond accordingly.
Right. And then ask them.
Mhm.
You can ask the question, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
You don't have to try to, be a mind reader or try to come in with a predetermined way in what you want to engage them. So yes, go in silently and you can ask the question, what do you need right now? What can I do for you?
Absolutely.
And let them help guide you through that process.
Our hope tonight, my dear friends, was to aid and assist you in getting through the holidays with joy. We understand firsthand, all of us, how difficult that can be. special days when everybody comes together, and again, whatever your loss is, it may not be death. It could be a plethora of losses that we've discussed tonight. But our goal tonight was to help give you some tools to get you through the season without falling into a depression or a state of prolonged sadness. We want to see you flourish and grow even beyond Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. I mean, these are just rough times, and that's why we came on now. Our desire is to see you get back into life, to see you live your best life, to see you grow, to you expand and embrace life to the fullest. And so we're offering ourselves to you beyond tonight. If we're in your area, then feel free to reach out to us. Three of us are from Michigan, so you know that's heavy artillery. So you got the choice of three of us. Dr. Smith is located in Mississippi, Alabama, New Orleans, all up and down the Gulf Coast. You know, he's a man. That's his area. That's his territory. He has resources available that he can outsource you to if he cannot do it himself. And so we're here for that. He has some wonderful books and materials that you can. Can we please put the website of Dr. Smith so that those who want to order material can go to his website, order his material. And while you're getting that together, I want again to encourage everybody to sow a $10 seed in the program tonight by purchasing or pre-ordering your copy of Good Grief. I'm not asking you for an offering tonight in that regard. I'm asking you for a donation. And in return to your donation that you sow tonight of $10, I'm going to send you a copy of my book, Good Grief, Path to Healing and Emotional Wellness. It's a great read. It's an easy read. It does have within it the five stages of grief, and with explanations go along with that. And I know it'll be a great blessing to you. And so you can do that from now to midnight. Your $10 donation will qualify you to receive a first to get it. If you pre-order it, as soon as it drops on December 31st, you will be able to download it if you choose to download, or you can have a hard copy if you prefer that. All right. And so go ahead and make that happen. Now you can go to alvernisjohn.com. That's my first and last name.com. There'll be a form for you to fill out there. You can fill that form out. Your donation of $10, and we will make sure that you're on the list. I know I froze, didn't I? Did I freeze up?
No.
On my end, I did. Okay, so, and I was in it too. I was doing such a fantastic job. All right, and so, but anyway, I want you to be able to do that. So, if you have any questions, you have about 5 to 10 minutes here, because I want to give my panelists a time to give their final before we leave. But again, pre-order your copy today, $10 donation, and you'll be able to get your copy of Good Grief, The Path to and Emotional Wellness. All right. I don't know, Rochelle, if you caught any questions or not. I need social media to handle those individuals. Everyone did an amazing job. I feel empowered. Thank you. Well, I think all of our media is our name. You can go and just go to Facebook, or you can actually Google us. We're Googleable.
I'm on Psychology Today as well.
Huh?
I said I'm on Psychology Today as well.
So you definitely find us, and then maybe some of our friends here can put our information in their slot. Rochelle is doing some other things. So Rochelle, let's make sure they have Josh's information. Robert is still working on his book. Jennifer's still working on hers. And we can't wait to get these materials in our hand. You are fantastic individuals, and you have blessed the lives of so many. I don't see any questions coming up, which means we did a fantastic job. If they're not asking questions after that, that means we covered a whole lot of ground in a very short period of time. I definitely want to speak God's blessings over your lives. I want this holiday season to be one of the best for you. And while I do know you're going to be challenged, as y'all will, I want you to find some joy and peace in knowing that God is the God of comfort and the God of all, and He has literally put this in our hearts to come and share. This is active. Nobody here is getting honorarium. Nobody here is getting paid. Nobody here charged me to come. Nobody's asked for a consultation fee. This is a labor of love, and show the love of God to you all tonight. And so, to God be the glory. All right, to God be the glory. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I want our panel to have the final words. Any closing remarks? Any closing thoughts to our listeners, our viewers? Anything that's on your heart to say? You now have the floor, and then I'll come back one more time and do one last plug, and then we'll go home.
All right. Thanks again, Bishop Dr. Johnson, for having us. And thank you, brethren, for just working together with us on tonight. It's been a beautiful time of fellowship and sharing. I would simply say that life is going to change you, grief is going to change you, but always strive to make sure it changes you for the better. Simply put, have a wonderful night.
Dr. Smith, go ahead.
Oh, praise the Lord. Thank you, Bishop Dr. Johnson, for having me on. Thank you to our panelists. Excellent job. I feel very honored and esteemed enough at all. I just want to say to everyone, I just want to quote Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth II. She said that grief is the price that we pay for loving. And so there's nothing wrong with grieving. I would encourage you to go through the process, continue to put in the work so that you can be that best version of yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank you also, Dr. Bishop, for this honor and esteemed panel. I just always learn a lot myself when I'm in the company of these great people. I'm hoping that I was able to just add my voice to the conversation, which was very timely and very necessary, I think, at this time juncture where we find ourselves right now. The holiday season brings up a lot of things for a lot of people, but also a lot of the things we've gone through over the last few years have been culminating to a point where I think people are kind of at their wits' end, and now beginning to feel it as well as understand it. And I'm glad to be part of a contingency of believers that are out here to just help to make things better for people.
Well, I think that well, first of all, let me thank you all for being here, and also thank you for using one title. You can choose Bishop or Doctor. That double title is wearing me out.
Is it wearing you out?
All wearing me out. So I thought
all of them. You got them all.
I know.
Okay, is it sacred then secular? Is that what it's supposed to be?
Well, tonight is Alvernis because I'm wore out, and so.
Reverend Doctor.
But let me say this, because whenever you are critical of a thing, right? Like you just have a natural criticism about certain things. When it happens to you, you feel like I've always been critical about Reverend Doctor. I've always said, hey, which one you want to be tonight? We know you prophet, apostle, elder, Dr. Bishop.
Can you give us at least 4 more weeks though? Just 4 more weeks.
Like,
let's go to the new year. Take us into the new year.
Okay, so January 1, then we're gonna have to choose one title at a time. So I'm just glad Rochelle didn't put it on my name tag.
Right,
that would be I'd have been totally wiped out. But anyway, I do want to thank you all so very much. I think the people want us to do this again. I really think they want us to do this again. And we just got to think about some type of format that we can help people. Maybe we'll just look at special time and certain intervals that we'll come together. But every time we do this, I get such an overwhelming response from our viewers. They really were blessed by it, and maybe we could do something where what I'd like to do. What I'd like to do is maybe even have a time where we can come together in person and have a sit down and talk to people and just kind of help them. I love helping people, and their response tonight is overwhelming. See if everybody's saying yes again. do it again, do it again. So we will commit to making sure that every now and then we look at this subject of mental health, especially as it relates to believers, so that we can eventually remove that stigma in our own culture. And as Joshua said something years ago, I was sitting one of his sessions in Mississippi, and it changed my it was a paradigm shift for me. It changed the trajectory of my thinking in this area. He said, I want to make healthy churches. I want to be responsible for help churches become healthy. That whole idea of healthy church there with that conference, with that whole idea. And I came home with a commitment, and Jennifer can attest to this, Rochelle can attest to this, that I came home on fire, and I really started being intentional about making sure that our church was a healthy church, that we were not just spiritual, we were not just charismatic, we were not just Pentecostal, we were not just demonstrative in our praise, but that we were going to be healthy in how we think. And so again, years ago, I did about a year series on mindset, and I took our whole church through mind renewal, and I did some years and years of study on the brain. I thought I was going to go to school and get my degree in psychology. That's what I took the class. I started. That was my goal. And once I got in the classes and started writing the papers and seeing how many theories were debunked, and I would study a whole theory and only find out at the end that we don't believe that no more. I said, okay, I'm gonna leave this to Josh. This is Josh, and this is Robert. This is Jennifer's area. I'm gonna go back to theology. I'm gonna go back to what I absolutely love, and then I'll keep them close to me so they can keep me correct. So I am a layman psychologist, a layperson counselor. I do have some training and but my professionals are before you tonight. Those who I trust are before you tonight, and so I'm committed to healthy churches and making sure the body of Christ that I preach to are healthy, which is the reason for two of my latest books, the Path to Abundant Giving. That book has not received the acclaim that it deserves yet, and now on the heels of that, we're coming out with a great book. This is for the season, but come the new year, I'll be sharing that along with my CD that came out, Walking in My Season. All this I'm tying together to help our people come to a wholeness. I want to see people whole. When you dancing, I want to know you ain't dancing because it can't be therapeutic, but I don't want it to be your only therapy. It's shouting in the house of God. I want you to be okay when you're up that flow, and I want to see you productive in your life. And so that's why I brought these together. Now, what we are going to do, and they don't know this. This is my official Christmas announcement. We are going to collaborate on a work together. I don't know what it's going to be called or what's going to come of it, but we're going to collaborate on a work together. And I think it's going to be in the area of removing the stigma out of the church for mental health, and really looking at the difference between mental health and mental illness. Because just because you are concerned about mental health don't mean you're sick. And Josh, well, again, I have to credit you for helping me understand that just like I go to the doctor for checkups at annuals or semi-annuals, I need to be having semi-annual checks for my mental health as well. I'll be as concerned about my mental health as I am about my physical and my spiritual health. And so thank you all for that. Robert knows it. Jennifer knows it. I will sit on the unofficial couch in a minute. I will go down to Southfield, and I'll go in that family room, and I'll sit there, and I will say whatever want to come out of my mouth. And it's a no judgment zone. It's a place where I can be myself and just tell them. If I'm mad, I can say I'm mad. If I'm hurt, I can say I'm hurting. If I'm disappointed, I can say I'm disappointed. Josh is the same way. He knows he's my son in the gospel. I don't disrespect that relationship, but when I need him as a therapist, I've called him and I've said to him, this is where I am, and this is what I think I need. And so I remove that stigma, especially for my preacher friends. I still have preacher friends who will not go get help, and I want to help them. So this is my team. Look at my dream team, everybody. This is my dream team, and they didn't say that I just claimed them. And so, you do it in public, then they can't say no. I love these people. I honor these people, and I thank them for sharing time in their life with us tonight. And so I'm gonna let y'all go back to your lives as they were. Thank you, lady.
Thank you.
Brianna, we appreciate you for letting the man of God come. Thank you, Elder Tierre Brundige, for releasing Jennifer. Thank you, El Renee, quote unquote, Nene, for giving us Robert tonight. Y'all go back and enjoy your families. I'm going to go home to Chantel when it's over. And my 7 kids who want to put up a Christmas tree. Yes, I'm doing it. No, it ain't up already. Judge your mama. and when I put it up, it's gonna be up until it come down. Easter. I ain't still off. Get out of my house. I can have Christmas in March if I want to. All right. So thank you again. Good night, y'all. Rochelle, give me a few minutes before you take me off. I want to push this book one more time, and then we'll let them go home. God bless everybody. Thank you so very much. Now, was that super wonderful? I wish I could say that extravaganza. I don't know how to even say it. Super. I don't even know the whole saying, but I think it was a great program tonight. Great show tonight. God really moved in a mighty way. I want to go ahead and put the graph up one more time for those who are still with us. We got about 50 y'all still on here. Make sure you get your copy of Good Grief. The $10 that you sold tonight is going to go into helping us establish and maintain our grief ministry here at Kingdom Life Ministry. Again, this is not my Rolls Royce book. It's coming out later. But I want you to go ahead and sow that seed tonight of $10 and pre-order your copy. You can order a hard copy or you can order a downloadable copy. Either or, for now until midnight tomorrow, only $10. And I'll make sure that you get your copy when it comes out. December 31st is the day for the official release. It has in it the 5 stages of grief. And I'm going to go ahead tonight and put up a synopsis of what the book is about and give you an opportunity for you to go ahead and pre-order your copy. All right. You go to alvernisjohnson.com. That's ALVERNIS, last name Johnson.com, all one word. And you can go ahead and pre-order yours today. Well, the donation of $10 is $10. You're helping those like yourselves who may be in a time of grief and really need to be assisted and helped. All right, guys, it will take me too long to tell how much, so I'm not even going to try. I got 3 minutes to 9. I can't close this program out at 8:57 because I'm OCD, as they say. It's got to be 9 o'clock. So I got to use these last minute and 45 seconds to tell you also about the other book that you can order on our website, The Path to Abundant Giving. The Path to Abundant Giving is a great book on tithing offerings. It's a wonderful read. Get that. Also, I got to tell you that to all the digital download platforms and download our latest. We don't have Walking in My Season, do we? Do we have that? Walking in My Season. Yes, I'm going to close in prayer. Absolutely. Walking in My Season. You can get that as well. And I want you to make sure that you go ahead and download that on Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and all the other digital downloads. All right, let's pray. Father, I thank you for your word that declares that the joy of the Lord is our strength, that weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Your word declares that you're the God of all comfort and God of all spirits. And so I pray even now during this holiday season, you will comfort those that are watching tonight, those that are grieving the loss of loved ones, the loss of job, the loss of a relationship, or whatever it may be. I pray in Jesus' name that you will comfort them and let joy spring forth. Let this not be a time of prolonged sorrow and sadness for them, but lift their head, lift their right head. Now cause our head to be round about us. And Father, let the joy of the Lord be our strength tonight. And with that joy, we will draw water from the wells of salvation. I pray for families. I pray for husbands. I pray for wives and for children. I pray that this holiday season will be a time of togetherness. Let there be safety in travel. Those who are going over the airways to see family and friends, give them safe travel. Most of all, Father, I pray that your love would comfort, that your love would strengthen, that your love would keep us in the mighty and magnificent name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. Somebody say amen and amen. God bless you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'll see you guys real soon. God bless and good night.